So Jesus had a moment of, you might say, unanswered prayer. If you're probably familiar with this. You read about it in the Garden of Gethsemane, but there's a passage you're probably not familiar with. At least many of you are not, in Hebrews about this. And so a little preview for months from now when I get to Hebrews 5, but we'll talk about that. So Jesus in the garden is praying. He's in great distress. He's sorrowful unto death. That's the term used in Scripture. How much grief is he in? Sorrowful unto death. Imagine how much grief, stress, strain, hardship he's in at that moment to say that. He is so stressed out that the capillaries are bursting in his face, and he's sweating blood. Out of his pores is coming blood, which is a condition that is known for those who are, like, say, about to experience the death penalty or under real high stress situations related to war and things like that. People actually can, they're so strained and stressed, they can sweat blood. This is actually a condition. I've heard skeptics laugh in Luke that describes Jesus as sweating blood as being, like, obviously myth. This is a real medical condition, but it shows the kind of strain he's under. Then he prays in the garden, Lord, Father, if there's any other way, let this cup pass from me, yet not my will be done, but yours be done. And usually we think of this as an unanswered prayer. Like maybe you think of your prayers as unanswered. God, I ask you to rescue my child who is dying. God, I ask you to help my parent who is going through this suffering, to do this thing. I asked you to do something. And at least in some cases, I think it can be like Jesus, okay, in some of those cases. And here's how it is with Jesus. The prayer from the Garden of Gethsemane looks unanswered. But when you zoom out and you move to more of a long-term perspective, in the moment it seemed unanswered, he goes to the cross. But when you zoom out, you see the resurrection of Christ, and you go, was it unanswered? Here's what Hebrews 5 says about this. This is pretty interesting. Hebrews chapter 5, verses 7 and 8. In the days of his flesh, Jesus offered up prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears. This is the Garden of Gethsemane. This is multiple times he went to go pray. And it was deep. This has got to be the Garden of Gethsemane Hebrews 5 is talking about. He offers these prayers to him who is able to save him from death. And you're like, God, you can do it. You love me. You can do it. But then what it says next is shocking to me. And he was heard because of his reverence. He was heard. His prayer was answered with a yes, but the cup didn't pass. It was not answered with a yes, you'll avoid the cross, but it was answered with a yes, you will be delivered through this trial. Sometimes God rescues us from the fire, and sometimes God rescues us through the fire. And Jesus went through it, and sometimes you go through it. But his resurrection is a way in which we can say that his prayer was not answered in a sense, didn't get the thing he asked for specifically, and knew he wouldn't because he was like, your will be done and all this. It was all to teach us. But his prayer was answered in another sense because in the long term, in the eternal sense, there was this final time of peace and reconciliation with all that had happened before. All of the good that came later was overshadows any of the pain and suffering he was in at the time. And I think this is a parallel for you and me when we go through our times of prayer. Please God, please God, please God, that if I have to look all the way to heaven when I die and stand before God, I will be in his presence and he will wipe tears away. And there will be a time where I go, Lord, you didn't answer my prayer, but you did answer my prayer. Now that I'm in your presence, it's all okay. It's all okay. I'm good with all of it.